In exactly 63 bone-chilling seconds, Jasmine Crockett tore open a sealed envelope. Inside, the final confession Jeffrey Epstein wrote before his mysterious death. As she read each word, Trump's face drained of color, his lips locked, and the room froze like a crime scene. The last line echoed through Congress. I have the name. What name could unravel a legacy and expose the child he swore the world would never know? The red tally light blinked once, then locked solid. Live, C-SPAN, CNN, Fox. Every major outlet had their lens fixed on room 317 of the Capitol's Oversight Committee. The air inside was thick, too still for a room packed with power. Phones stopped buzzing, laptops stopped clacking. What was scheduled as a standard oversight hearing on campaign finance suddenly felt like the opening scene of something bigger. And then she walked in. Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, black suit, no notes, no smile, strode to her seat like she wasn't coming to ask questions. She was coming to deliver something. Behind her trailed a single aide, holding nothing but a sealed red envelope, thick with folded paper and a wax stamp that shimmered beneath the studio lights. She didn't even glance at Trump. He sat 3 seats down, flanked by 2 attorneys and a blank-faced press officer, arms crossed, jaw tight. That familiar smirk twitched for a second, and then vanished when Jasmine placed the envelope on the polished mahogany table with a soft thud that somehow cut through the entire room. A murmur rippled. The committee chair raised an eyebrow. One of Trump's lawyers leaned in and whispered, but Jasmine didn't flinch. She simply adjusted the mic and said, calm as a surgeon, before we begin today's questioning, I'd like to enter one piece of evidence into the record. No one spoke. No one breathed. The chair hesitated. Ms. Crockett, that item hasn't gone through standard review. It's time sensitive, she replied, and it's final. Trump's eyes narrowed. He shifted in his seat. Somewhere off camera, a producer whispered, zoom in, because every viewer watching had the same question burning in their gut. What the hell is in that envelope? The envelope sat on the table like a loaded weapon, untouched, unopened, unbearable. Jasmine didn't look at the chair. She didn't ask for permission. She just picked it up, broke the red wax seal with one deliberate press of her thumb, and unfolded the letter like she already knew what it said. Her voice was steady, low, controlled. This, she said, holding up the page, is Jeffrey Epstein's final letter. Never released until now. Gasps didn't come, only silence. But everyone felt the shift. The room stiffened. Trump blinked once, slowly, then leaned back, face tightening like cold concrete. The cameras caught it. So did America. Jasmine began to read, not with anger, with precision. Client, if I am found dead in this cell, the letter said, know this. I did not end it. Others did, to protect themselves, to protect him. She paused, looked around. The reporters were frozen. One attorney dropped his pen. She continued, I have kept his secret longer than I should have. I gave him power. I gave him silence. And in return, I asked for one thing, protection for the child he never claimed. A rustle moved through the gallery like wind through dry grass. Jasmine folded the paper halfway. She hadn't read the name. Not yet. Instead, she looked directly into the nearest lens, millions of eyes behind it, and said almost softly, what if the truth doesn't die in the dark, but only when we stop asking who it's meant to protect? The air in room 317 turned electric. Not loud, just charged like right before a thunderclap. Phones vibrated silently. Journalists whispered into their recorders. On Twitter, the hashtag Epstein Letter shot to trending within 90 seconds. Jasmine didn't flinch. One committee member leaned into his mic. Madam Chair, I move that we suspend this hearing pending authentication of the document. Jasmine cut in, eyes never leaving the letter. You want to pause because a powerful man might be uncomfortable, but I'm not here to protect reputations. I'm here to protect children. Trump shifted in his seat. His hands folded neatly moments ago, now gripped the armrest like a lifeline. One of his lawyers leaned over to whisper something, but he didn't hear it. His eyes were locked on the woman at the center of the storm. Jasmine reached beneath her folder and pulled out a second envelope. This one was smaller, thinner, but sealed just the same. Blood red wax, gold flecks. She held it up slowly, carefully, like it might detonate. "This one," she said, her voice calm but heavy, "contains the name. The name of the child Epstein wrote about, the one he swore was his insurance, and Donald Trump's legacy." A gasp ripped through the room. Not a whisper, not a murmur, a full, audible gasp. Trump slammed his palm flat on the table. The crack echoed off the marble. "Lies," he barked. "This is a setup." But no one moved. Jasmine didn't blink. She just lowered the envelope and whispered, almost like she was talking to the camera, or maybe to the girl herself. "What name could shatter a presidency in 11 letters or less?" The envelope stayed sealed, but Jasmine didn't need to open it yet. She tapped the microphone once, leaned forward, and spoke into the silence like it was a confession booth. "Let me take you back to Florida, year 2006. The screen behind her lit up. A grainy security still appeared. A young girl in a white blouse, pushing towels on a laundry cart across the Mar-a-Lago pool deck. Age 17, name redacted. 1 week later, she vanished. No police report, no media coverage, no trace. But Jasmine had something else. She reached into her folder and held up a scanned receipt. Time-stamped, notarized, $42,870. Paid by T Holdings, Inc. to a private maternity clinic in Palm Beach, June 4th, 2006. That's 5 days after the girl disappeared. And yes, T Holdings is registered to Trump Organization via a shell company. The room didn't gasp this time. It sank. Jasmine pressed a button. A second document blinked onto the screen. A birth certificate. Baby girl. Weight, 7 lbs, 2 Oz. Mother listed. Father, blank. The certificate was filed, but the mother's records were sealed within 30 days, then scrubbed the following year. Gone like she never existed. Trump's face twitched, just once, but it was enough. Jasmine's voice softened. This wasn't a headline. This was a girl, alone, pregnant, silenced. She paused. Then her eyes lifted back to the room, and someone made sure she stayed silent, using the same foundation that claimed to fight for underprivileged children. And somewhere out there, a woman born in the dark, still doesn't know whose name should have been on that line. Jasmine didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. From the side of the chamber, a woman in a dark blazer approached the desk. FBI Special Agent Kimberly Rainey. She handed Jasmine a slim plastic case. Inside, a maroon Dominican Republic passport, well worn at the edges, but clean where it mattered. Jasmine slid it onto the table in full view of the cameras. A murmur ran through the gallery. A Fox News mic swung into frame. Trump sat back motionless, but his knuckles pressed hard against the wood. One of his lawyers whispered urgently, but he didn't blink. Jasmine opened the passport. Page after page. Blank stamps, faded visas, and then, one detail, hidden beneath a layer of false laminate. She pulled out a small UV scanner and aimed it at the photo page. A glow spilled across the table like spilled ink. There it was. Catherine T. Marlowe Trump. 11 letters. No middle name. No father listed in any official registry. But the surname was real. And the signature? A match to a former Trump Organization assistant. Long gone, long paid off. Jasmine let the silence hang. She didn't look at Trump. She looked straight ahead, her voice cutting clear through the static. You didn't just deny her. You didn't just abandon her. She turned the passport toward the cameras, toward America. You moved her like money, offshore, like an asset too dangerous to declare. The silence broke like glass. Trump's jaw clenched. Melania's front row seat sat empty. Echoing, the media began texting so fast it sounded like rain, and behind every shell company is a name someone was too ashamed to say out loud. The room was shifting, not loud, not chaotic, just shifting. You could feel it, like a courtroom where the jury just made up its mind. Eyes that once rolled now narrowed. Pens stopped moving. And then, unexpectedly, a voice cut through the tension. "Madam Chair," said Representative Eli Walker, Republican Texas, "let the witness continue." Every head turned. Trump's team froze. They knew Walker, veteran, conservative, never crossed party lines on TV. But his tone didn't leave space for argument. His eyes didn't flinch. Trump scoffed, leaned into his mic. This entire spectacle is a political ambush. It's racial grandstanding. She's making a mockery of the process. A few gasps, a few murmurs. One of his aides visibly winced. Jasmine didn't blink. She stood slowly, hands steady, voice low but sharp as a razor. You can call me angry, loud, black. You can wrap your fear in as many coded words as you want. She looked at Trump, then the nation. But tonight, you're not answering to me. You're answering to America. Then she reached for the second envelope. The red wax glinted beneath the chamber lights. Her fingers gripped the seal. One breath in, one camera zoomed, 1 second away from the name. And right then, the broadcast cut to commercial. Newsrooms erupted. Twitter caught fire. Commentators shouted over each other, demanding answers. But inside that room, the air had changed forever. Because what would you do if the father of your child erased you, not just from his life, but from history itself? When the broadcast came back, something had changed. Jasmine was no longer at the center of the storm. She had just handed the microphone to someone the room hadn't expected to see. A tall, pale woman in her early 30s, trembling slightly, stepped forward and adjusted the mic. Her voice cracked before it found shape. My name is Rachel Lind. I was a senior assistant to Ivanka Trump for 4 years. And I saw the girl. Trump flinched. She came to the New York office once. Blonde, small, maybe 15. No ID, no press. Just there. I was told to walk her past security. 2 days later, I saw Mr. Trump hand her guardian, an older woman, a white envelope. Thick, unmarked. Rachel swallowed hard. Jasmine stood beside her, hand on her back. Rachel reached into her purse and pulled out a flash drive. I wasn't supposed to have this. It was part of an archive Epstein left behind. Most of it was encrypted. But this one wasn't. A staffer plugged it into the committee system. Orye, the speakers crackled. Then came a voice, low, familiar, oozing recognition. Epstein. She's growing up too fast, he said. Too smart for her own good. If this leaks, I'm done. He's done. DT knows it. He's the one who wanted her quiet in the first place. The room snapped into silence. Trump's face drained. Someone in the gallery dropped their phone. Rachel stepped back from the mic, voice barely above a whisper. He didn't want her protected. He wanted her erased. And in that moment, America heard what no spin could erase. A voice from the dead, tying a legacy to the one thing no one ever dared say out loud. The lights dimmed slightly as the screen behind Jasmine flickered to life. No sound. Just a grainy black and white feed from a mounted security camera. Epstein's Island, 2013. Palm trees swayed. A stone patio overlooked the ocean, and walking casually across the frame was Donald Trump. Wearing a loose polo, drink in hand. He smiled, then turned and extended his arm toward a teenage girl beside him. She looked no older than 16. Baseball cap, bare feet, hesitant smile. Gasps swept the chamber. Jasmine didn't move. She pointed to the corner of the screen. Check the timestamp, July 19th, 2013. A few reporters looked up from their phones, stunned. That same date was on the official White House visitor log Trump once cited under oath. Meetings in D.C. all day. The girl in the video stepped toward him. Trump placed a hand gently on her back, then whispered something into her ear. She looked down. He laughed. Epstein entered the frame seconds later, grinning, clapping Trump on the shoulder. The clip froze. Jasmine's voice cracked, just once before she steadied it. You didn't just know Epstein, she said. You weren't a bystander. You were part of the arrangement. Murmurs rose like a wave. One of Trump's lawyers stood up, shouting, "This is inadmissible." The committee chair slammed the gavel. Order! But Jasmine didn't flinch. She reached into her jacket and pulled out a second USB stick, labeled only with a red X. She held it up. This drive contains Epstein's private archive. Videos, names, transaction logs. It was sent to 3 parties in case of his death. She paused. One copy is in the hands of this committee. The silence was suffocating. And in that moment, Every person watching asked the same question. What else did Epstein take to the grave? That Jasmine Crockett just pulled back from the dead. Jasmine didn't say a word. The room was already holding its breath. But when she reached down and lifted the red-sealed envelope, the silence deepened into something primal. Every camera light blinked red. The whole country, it seemed, leaned forward in unison. She broke the wax with a slow, deliberate motion. No theatrics. No sound. She unfolded the page inside. Thin, yellowed, handwritten in ink that trembled near the bottom. She read it. Then, without lifting her gaze, she walked it straight to the witness table. Trump didn't take it at first. His hands didn't move. His eyes just stared. So she laid the paper down in front of him. He looked down. One blink. Two. Then, something shifted. He tried to laugh, but it caught in his throat. He shook his head, lips curling like he wanted to speak. But no words came. His shoulders tensed, then dropped. He sank into the leather chair like the air had been vacuumed out of his chest. The cameras zoomed tight. One angle caught the paper's heading, Guardian Agreement, March 2007. The signature at the bottom, D. Trump. Someone in the gallery gasped. Someone else whispered, "Oh my God." But Jasmine didn't flinch. She returned to her mic and said, clear as ever, "You didn't just lie to the public. You didn't just lie to Congress. You lied to your own child." The chair said nothing. Journalists bolted from the room like a fire alarm had gone off. Phones lit up like Vegas. Twitter imploded. And somewhere, out there, a young woman watched in real time as her name finally entered history. Will she step into the light before the silence buries her all over again? Outside the Capitol, the streets had already erupted. Barricades buckled under the weight of bodies. Protesters, reporters, survivors, all pressing toward the marble steps like the truth might come walking out the door. Police in riot gear stood shoulder to shoulder. Sirens pulsed through the city like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Inside, the committee room was locked down. But online, it was war. Crockett Truth hit #1 worldwide in less than 6 minutes. TikTok stitched her words with trembling survivor testimonies. Girls once silenced by fear were now going live, naming names, sharing dates, whispering, "She just said what we were never allowed to." Podcast hosts dropped emergency episodes. Reddit exploded with timelines and photo comparisons. Discord servers, live streams, newsrooms, it was everywhere. And so was she. Jasmine Crockett's face flooded every screen. Some hailed her as a hero. Others called her a traitor. One network labeled her the most dangerous woman in Washington. Another just ran the headline, "The name is real. Security had to escort her from the building." Not because she asked, but because the crowd was surging now, emotion boiling in both directions. Some came to protect her. Others came to silence her. She walked straight through them, head up, not a single word, because she knew this wasn't just about one man or one girl. It was about every voice that had been buried, until now. And somewhere between the chants and sirens, America realized this wasn't a headline anymore. This was a reckoning. Outside the Capitol, the streets had already erupted. Barricades buckled under the weight of bodies. Protesters, reporters, survivors, all pressing toward the marble steps like the truth might come walking out the door. Police in riot gear stood shoulder to shoulder. Sirens pulsed through the city like a heartbeat out of rhythm. Inside, the committee room was locked down. But online, it was war. Crockett Truth hit #1 worldwide in less than 6 minutes. TikTok stitched her words with trembling survivor testimonies. Girls once silenced by fear were now going live, naming names, sharing dates, whispering, "She just said what we were never allowed to." Podcast hosts dropped emergency episodes. Reddit exploded with timelines and photo comparisons. Discord servers, live streams, newsrooms, it was everywhere. And so was she. Jasmine Crockett's face flooded every screen. Some hailed her as a hero. Others called her a traitor. One network labeled her the most dangerous woman in Washington. Another just ran the headline, "The name is real. Security had to escort her from the building." Not because she asked, but because the crowd was surging now, emotion boiling in both directions. Some came to protect her. Others came to silence her. She walked straight through them, head up, not a single word, because she knew this wasn't just about one man or one girl. It was about every voice that had been buried, until now, and somewhere between the chants and sirens, America realized. This wasn't a headline anymore. This was a reckoning. The backlash came fast and brutal. Within hours, Trump's allies flooded the airwaves. When one senator waved the letter on camera and called it a forgery printed by left-wing lunatics, another claimed the girl was a trained actress from Los Angeles, probably paid by Soros. Behind closed doors, legal teams scrambled. In public, the damage control was already full volume. Fox News ran the headline in bold white font, "Crockett Hoax, Political Theater at its Worst." Clips of Jasmine reading Epstein's letter were cut, re-edited, twisted into bait for their base. Entire segments accused her of exploiting a child who may not even exist. They didn't attack the evidence. They attacked her. By nightfall, her office inbox had over 700 death threats. One message read, "We know where you live." Another said, "You just declared war on the wrong family." Her chief of staff urged her to stop. "Just take a breath," he begged. "Let someone else handle this now." Jasmine didn't even look up from her desk. "They threatened me to protect a name. That means they did worse, to protect a girl." She stood, still in her hearing clothes, hair undone, voice steady. "They can try to scare me into silence. Imagine what they did to her." The room fell quiet. She didn't cry. She didn't shake. She just walked back into the storm, because silence was never an option. And outside, somewhere in the dark, the men who buried the truth were realizing she wasn't going away. Not this time. She didn't rush. She didn't wave. She just walked, slow and steady, down the Capitol steps, the same sealed letter still in her hand. The crowd parted like water. Reporters screamed her name. Protesters raised signs. Cameras flashed like lightning, but Jasmine didn't stop. At the bottom of the steps, she turned around, faced the building, the press, the world. She opened the letter one last time. Her fingers trembled now. Not from fear, but weight. She scanned the final line. The ink was faint, the letters uneven, but the words were clear. The man who denies his child denies his soul. A hush rippled across the crowd. Even the wind seemed to stop. She looked straight into the nearest lens, unblinking, unshaken. "I didn't expose him to destroy a man. I did it, so no child would have to grow up invisible again." She folded the paper and tucked it back inside her coat. The mic caught the sound. Soft. Final. Somewhere a little girl would hear that line. Somewhere a grown woman might finally understand who she was. And somewhere else a powerful man sat alone, his silence now louder than any denial. What does America owe to the children it tried to erase? Just to protect a name? The envelope came 2 weeks later. No return address. Just her name typed, not handwritten, on cream-colored paper. Jasmine opened it alone in her office, the Capitol lights glowing faint behind the frosted glass. She unfolded the letter slowly, as if each crease carried a breath she wasn't ready to exhale. She read the first line once, then twice. "I saw it, I saw you, and for the first time, I didn't feel erased." Her breath caught, her fingers trembled. Not from fear, but something older, deeper, like a memory that didn't belong to her, but still lived inside her bones. No one had confirmed it, not officially. The government hadn't named her. The press hadn't found her, but Jasmine didn't need proof. The tone, the pain between the words. It was real. She kept reading. "For most of my life, I was a secret with no home. I didn't exist on paper, only in hotel records and whispered threats. But that night, you spoke like I mattered. And I realized, I do." The letter was signed with a name that had never appeared in court. Catherine T. Marlowe. And just below that, in shakier handwriting, "I never chose to be hidden. But I choose now to be seen." Jasmine folded the letter slowly, pressing her palm against it like she was holding someone's hand. She didn't cry, but for the first time since that hearing, she exhaled. What started as a whisper in a sealed envelope had become something else entirely. A headline, a reckoning, a movement. And somewhere, for the first time in 24 years, a forgotten girl had finally spoken back to the world, not in fear, but in her own name. By the end of the month, it was no longer just a scandal. It was a federal investigation. The Department of Justice announced a full inquiry into Donald Trump's private financials from 2000 to 2015, specifically targeting undisclosed payments to offshore trusts, shell charities, and personal guardian transfers. Reporters swarmed the courthouse steps. Subpoenas hit inboxes like thunder. One former Trump accountant flipped within days. But while the country focused on indictments, Jasmine was already working on something deeper. A law. She called it the Child Identity Protection and Disclosure Act, a bill designed to protect minors who had been concealed, erased, or financially silenced by powerful figures, not for headlines, for dignity. She brought it to the floor with quiet force. At the first Survivors Forum held in D.C., the room was packed with women and men, some trembling, some stone-faced, all carrying the same silent weight. Jasmine stood at the podium without notes. "I know what it's like to walk into a room full of people who don't want your story told," she said. "But you are not shame. You are not secrets. You are stories waiting to be heard." Some cried. Others stood. A few just nodded, finally seen. And behind her on the screen, a quote lit up, one that had once been buried in a sealed envelope. "The man who denies his child, denies his soul." The chamber didn't clap. They rose. Because justice doesn't always begin in a courtroom. Sometimes, it starts with one voice refusing to sit down. The sun was dropping behind the Capitol dome, casting long gold shadows across the marble steps. Jasmine walked alone, heels echoing softly on the stone. No security, no entourage, just her, and the letter still folded in her coat pocket. The city buzzed behind her, but up here everything felt still. Like the air itself knew something had shifted. She didn't speak, but the voiceover did. Power hides its sins in vaults, buried in paperwork, protected by silence. But sometimes, one voice can pick the lock. She paused at the bottom of the stairs, looked back once, not at the cameras, not at the building, at the weight of it all. Then she turned, walked into the dusk, head high, back straight, no hesitation. The screen faded to black. Some children don't need to be hated to feel invisible. Silence alone is enough. But sometimes it only takes one voice, like Jasmine's, to break that silence and let the light back in. Have you ever stayed silent about a truth? Not because it wasn't real, but because it felt too dangerous to speak? Share your story below, because your voice might be the one someone else has been waiting to hear. If this story struck a nerve, don't just scroll past it. Like, share, and subscribe to First Shock, where hidden truths find their voice. Just tap the bell, because next time, the silence we break might be your own. What part made you pause? What truth hit too close to home? Tell us in the comments, because your voice doesn't just matter here. It completes the story. This dramatized story is inspired by real struggles and real people. All characters and dialogue are fictionalized for commentary and education. It is not intended to defame or mislead, but to inspire reflection and civic awareness. Thanks for watching.